agency work is hard. And there are so many opinions, and clients can sometimes give tough feedback, and you have to respond and you have to react and you have to roll with it. And as a creator, that can be hard. You can put your heart and soul in something and a client doesn't like it, and that can just be hard for your inner person. Welcome to the Her First podcast, a platform to help online business owners, coaches, and creators gain the confidence needed to build a successful business while creating a sustainable lifestyle balance. We are here to help you prioritize yourself in business and life. I'm Joanna Newton.
And I'm Michelle Puolani. In this podcast, along with the Her First Collective, you can engage in the challenges women face in business, ways to increase your impact or income online, and how to make it all work while launching, scaling, or maintaining. Spoiler, it's not about perfectionism, hustling, or a copy-paste methodology. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Her First podcast. Today we have a very special guest, our co-host, Joanna Newton. Now I'm excited. So today we're actually going to talk about the success that Joanna has seen with Millennial Marketer, her company and agency. I'm going to be acting as the interviewer and she's going to be acting as the guest. And we're just going to chat a lot about the success that she's had with her multi-six-figure agency. We'll get into some of the details. And we're going to talk about how she balances being the breadwinner and sole provider for her family while running this incredibly successful agency full-time. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Welcome, Joanna, to the Her First podcast. So grateful to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here in a different capacity and kind of sit in the passenger seat for today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we'll do another one where you're interviewing me, so we get to be on the other side. She has no idea what's coming today in terms of our questions, but we are going to take a good look about what's been happening since you've launched Millennial Marketer, where things are going into the future, and again, how you've been able to prioritize yourself in business and life, our mission here at the Her First podcast. So let's go ahead and start with how and why did you start Millennial Marketer to begin with?
So I always knew I wanted to be a business owner, but I honestly never knew what that business would be. When I started my last full-time job, I remember in the job interviews, my boss asked me, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like that typical question. And I know you're supposed to answer it like, oh, I'd love to grow my role here and grow my team and 10x whatever you're supposed to answer when you work for a company. But instead I said, well, in 5 years, I plan to be working for myself. I did that in about a year and a half instead of 5 years. So I'm really proud of that and knew I wanted to work for myself. I always worked so hard that I wanted to build something that was mine, right? That no one could really take away from me, that no one could take credit for, and that no one was honestly telling me what to do because I like telling people what to do instead. So that's really the general idea of like why I wanted to be a business owner. And Millennial Marketer kind of came out of happenstance. We talk a lot about on this podcast of building networks and creating opportunities. And when you put yourself out there, you find opportunities. Well, for a while, I started as a freelancer and I was doing social media marketing strategies for anybody who would hire me while I was working full time. And I came upon this world of course creation and course creators because a lot of the social media strategies I built were for course creators. My corporate background is in educational sales for like K-12 curriculum and higher ed advancement and things like that. And when I started freelancing, I think coaches and creators really connected with that in my background. I did it at a corporate level. It made sense to translate for the kind of solo edupreneur. That's what they're called in the edupreneur world, right? And I think people saw that connection. And that's how I met my now business partner. So my business partner, Brandon, he's a Kajabi course creator. He has a very successful online drone school and helps people pass the exam you need to be able to fly a drone professionally. And he hired me as a consultant, which at the time was super weird. I'm like this 30 plus year old mother in the middle of Western Pennsylvania. And, this 25-year-old in Southern California who fly drones hired me to do his marketing. It was this very weird experience. And I think the whole year we worked together, I was like, why is this happening? I'll just keep doing it. But I don't really know why I'm here. And along that journey, as we set up systems and processes together, it was actually my husband who one day said to me, "Hey, Joanna, like you and Brandon should help other people make Kajabi courses and help other people build course businesses. You two would be really good at doing that together." And then it just kind of happened. We started taking on some clients here and there, and then eventually it grew into what Millennial Marketer is today.
Which is what we're going to talk about in terms of growth. I don't always like to get into the superficial questions, especially when I'm talking with people in general, like, oh, how are you? How are things going? What's life like? I kind of like to dig in deep, right, as we get started here. But I do want to comment on the fact that that's so interesting that it was your husband who came up with the idea, because your husband also named this podcast Her First and came up with that idea. Okay, so the successful agency that you've created, Millennial Marketer, in its first full year of business, did about $500,000 in sales, so $500,000 in sales. This year, you're on track to do a 40% increase at $700,000 in sales. Congratulations on being such a badass, for one. And two, what do you think was one of the contributing factors to that level of success right out the gate?
So a big thing and something to kind of note is the year before. So last year was our first year of sales and we did about 500,000, and the year before we got our first client in about August. So about 2 years ago. That first year, I think we did 60, 70,000 in that like chunk of the year. And so we saw huge growth from, I'll call it year point 0.5 to year 1. And we saw that huge growth and then have continued to see growth into this year. I think one piece of that is growing retainer clients. So we were able to build our book of business and have a solid foundation of retainer clients. So then as you're growing, you kind of have this, your baseline is higher. You have like a higher baseline that's able to support your kind of month over month growth. Another big thing that helped us see that growth last year, this year, was growing a team. There was no way that the two of us, just Brandon and I, would be able to sustain the work it takes to grow that without having amazing people to do the work. So we've really invested and built up team members who can take on projects and do things and help us grow our offerings. The more we can do as a team, the more things we can offer, the more that we can sell. I think the third thing that I'll put in like the bucket of big marker movers of where we've seen that success is really focusing on our personal branding and profiles in freelancer marketplaces. So today, we currently, Brandon and I, do no outbound outreach. We don't do any outbound to get clients. It's all inbound. And if you don't know the difference, outbound from a sales perspective is when you go cold outreach to reach out to people who you think would be a good customer for you to try to book a discovery call. But all of our clients come from inbound, from someone finding us and saying like, "Hey, I want to work with you." So I don't do work to book discovery calls. They just get booked on my calendar. I had 3 yesterday that I still have to send the proposals for before I go on vacation, but I had 3 yesterday that I did no work. They just show up on my calendar and they, come to us. And we've done that by building profiles in 2 places, in Upwork, and Kajabi has a marketplace. Brandon and I are the number 5 and number 6 in the rankings on the marketplace. And we've built our profiles focused on the language we use there, focus on getting reviews both in the marketplace and in Upwork, but it allows us to have people just asking to work with us, which has been amazing contributing factor to our growth.
And when I hear the quantity of sales, I kind of want to know, like, how does that break down? Like, where did that come from? You mentioned retainer clients, but how many clients are you working with? Like, what does that look like? In what capacity? What sort of project figure amount do you typically work with? Because, $500,000 can come from $500,001 payments, or multiple at a higher tier. So kind of where does that breakdown fall for you in your business model?
Probably about a third of our monthly revenue is retainer clients. And our retainer, that's a very wide range of monthly prices that we have, from some like $1,000 a month to $15,000 a month, right? People who are looking for regular work on an ongoing basis and are paying for a team to take over that particular thing for their company, for their service. And what's nice about retainers is you're reselling in some way every month, because you have to deliver on your services and they're not going to keep you if you're not delivering, but you're not having to go acquire that customer every single month. You're not finding a new one, sending a proposal, going on a discovery call. A lot of our business is project-based clients. So somebody who wants to build a sales page or wants to build a funnel or wants us to film and edit videos for them. And those client projects can be a bit of a range. We'll have individual clients who spend $1,500 with us to $15,000 with us, just depending on what their needs are.
But from what I know from your business, it's kind of a consistent like lead generation process. Even though that lead generation process is bound, like you just had 3 discovery calls. I think that we get in the habit of thinking like, "Oh, I only have to do X and then I'll be fine. I never have to do that again." But that lead generation, that sales process is always a part of what you're doing, independent of whether you have the retainer clients or not, and especially if you want to grow, right? You're constantly bringing new people in and being able to sell them on what it is that you're doing. So a lot of people think when you say like 500,000, 700,000, that seems like such a high number that for a lot of business owners and sometimes solopreneurs, it's like, whoa, if I could only make that amount of money. But since you are running an agency, you do have a team. Can you break down a little bit how that plays out in terms of expenses and kind of set the expectations of, someone thinking like, oh, if I only hit $500,000 in sales, then I'll be good forever.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a constant process, right? If you kind of rest on your laurels and think, "Oh, I don't need any more. I don't need any more. We're good." You're going to run out of runway. And runway meaning like months to cover your expenses. You have so much time before your money runs out if you're not bringing in more people and more money. And we operate at about like, Brandon and I don't take salaries. We just work off the profits of our company. We just about spend about half of the money that comes in, sometimes more, on labor costs, subscriptions, just the very taxes, the various things that are coming into a business. So we need to be bringing in new people, because that other half of the money, so like half about covers our just general expenses, labor, and things like that. That other half is to pay ourselves and to invest in our future. So we're developing digital products that cost money before you make money from them. We might be developing new ideas for new services that costs money to figure out, right? How to offer a new service. So we have to be getting new people so that we can pay our team, keep our team, and develop for the future. And when you're selling, like, those people aren't always going to close right away. Like, you want a pipeline of people to think like, "Oh, great, this person wants to start in October. No problem. I'll follow up with them a little bit later." And you want to be bringing people into your system constantly. The people I'm talking to right now might close this month. They might close in 3 months. And always having that healthy pipeline is going to keep your business manageable.
I just saw this social media clip with Reese Witherspoon, and she was talking about auditioning and how she's constantly gone on auditions. She's just goes on audition after audition after audition. You never almost want to rely on that one thing coming through, or that one client or a handful of clients, or that you're going to keep the retainer clients. So you kind of have to constantly be thinking ahead. What is that lead generation process? What is that pipeline? And keep filling, keep filling, keep filling. I think it's an important thing that a lot of newer business owners and sometimes unsuccessful business owners at the time that they may feel like they're struggling forget. So I think it's such a great thing to point out and keep in mind for, as you're listening, the business that you have. How can you continue to grow that pipeline? How can you continue to nurture, generate leads, and bring people into your sphere of influence in that way? So when it comes to the agency model, there is a lot of competition out there. I get approached all the time via DM, via email, with cold outreach, whatever it is, people saying, I can help you grow, or I can help you do this, or I can create this page for you. How do you stay competitive in the market? And how do you kind of differentiate Millennial from other agencies out there?
Part of it is being uber specific with what we do. So we could say we help anybody with anything marketing related, and we'll build any website or anything, right? And that just puts us in a sea of so many people. But being so uber specific with helping like Kajabi course creators, and we also really focus on strategy for people. So, I'm not if you already know exactly what landing page you want and you just want to buy a template, I might not actually be the best fit for you, and that's okay. But being really specific about what we do, we help Kajabi course creators and help them with every step of the process and can help them with the strategy of the whole thing. That just makes us differentiated and makes us able to compete with everyone because what we do is so specific. And I mentioned earlier something about like Brandon and I are like the number 5 and 6 right now in the Kajabi expert marketplace, in terms of like the rankings of experts with reviews and all of that. That definitely helps because we're at the top. But when you look at the top 10 people, we all kind of offer slightly different things. So when people come and look for us, they're saying, oh, she does this. And what I do is so specific that there's this obvious connection that I feel like we have this like natural differentiation. Now, Brandon and I are always thinking about this too. Like we focus on this. What do we do? What makes sense? We say no to people who aren't necessarily the right fit for us. And we do have ideas about how we might even differentiate further that we're really still formulating. One of the things that we offer that not a lot of people offer, live launch support. So we could bring someone in, and if they're launching a program, we will come in and build all of the assets for that launch and actually help with the scheduling and the coaching and throughout the process. That's not something actually a lot of people in this space do, unless it's like a retainer basis, but we'll do that on a project basis. Like you want help with a launch and, considering possibly growing that, getting deeper into that, right? Like helping people with that live launch process. Scheduling emails can be scary if you've never done it before. And it sounds simple, but having like a support system to do that for you has been really big. So really focusing on what we do, what we offer, and what we're best at in a way makes us like not we don't have competitors in my mind. And we talk about this for course creators too. Like when you're building your course, make it so you're only competing with yourself because you're the only one that does your specific thing. Then it makes it a lot easier.
Such a great larger lesson to be learned about niching and specific about who you help and how you help them. That competition piece, and I've heard that before from mentors and coaches in this digital space, is there shouldn't be a matter of competition. Like the goal is to get to the point where your product, program, service, what you offer, people aren't shopping for. They're not looking at alternatives because you've been so clear and distinct about what it is that you do, how you do it, and the support or expertise that you have, that it's just a no brainer offer that people are going to invest. And it sounds like you've really built that respect, that trust, and that authority in this space, which I think is really, really admirable. So, so you're someone who has a team of people who are doing the activities for you, right? Like they're building the pages, they're doing the automations, they're managing the social content, and you and Brandon are more involved in the sales, the acquiring of clients, like getting them onboarded and then managing the entire team. So what are the things from a leadership perspective that you find really important, or the qualities that you have that's enabled your team to be successful up until this point?
Yeah, and one clarification point on that. I still work directly with some client work. Not all client work, but I do our live launches and I work with our retainer clients on their overall marketing strategy directly on a regular basis. That is a role that someday we hope to pass on. So I can be 100% focused on business growth, but that's where we're at right now. And that's something to think about as you're growing your business. Like there's different stages for different things. One thing on the leadership side that Brandon and I are both really passionate about is we really don't ask someone to do something we've never done before and tried before. And I think that that makes us really great leaders in our team's eyes, that they may know better than us about certain things, but we get it. You know what I mean? I get how to put up a sales page. I know how to build a product in Kajabi. I know how to set up automations and emails. I can do a lot of the work. And I think that really helps with the process because I'm able to be a leader and Brandon's able to be a leader because we know it. We get it. We can also help, right? Like if we're behind or stuck or there's a problem, they can actually strategize with us. Oh, how would we do this? How would we do that? And we can come together on like an equal playing field. I've done this before, and I think that really, really helps. I think also like building expectations and SOPs and really setting the stage is really, really important. And the other thing too, and I think this is something a lot of people don't think about, but agency work is hard. And there are so many opinions, and clients can sometimes give tough feedback, and you have to respond and you have to react and you have to roll with it. And as a creator, that can be hard. You can put your heart and soul in something, and a client doesn't like it. And that can just be hard for your inner person. And one thing that we don't do is layer on to that stress. If there's client feedback that's negative, like no one's in trouble. We just figure out how to give the client what they want. And I think that sort of leadership perspective of like, we're going to figure this out together makes a really big difference.
I think that's a wonderful place to be. And having had the experience from my perspective in hiring people, it's a lot easier for me to communicate when I know the steps or what's related to what has to get done. So I think with both yours and Brandon's experience, being able to cultivate that in your team and not sit in a place of like, well, just figure it out. It's like you're going to get in and do it together. And I think that really builds a lot of rapport with your team, commitment, and hopefully overall, like long term success. Like you're investing them in them, they're investing in you, and it builds a healthier business overall because you don't have a high turnover rate. You're not worried about finding new people, training, and moving them forward. So lovely. I love it. Now, you are in an exciting phase where you've been doing the services. You're going to continue to offer services, obviously, but you're also launching digital products. You said you're investing in digital products. How is that looking for you? What does that look like as you move forward? How's it going overall?
So we launched our first digital product. It is a 10-day course creation challenge. We've seen some success with it so far with an initial launch. Truth be told, we don't have a lot of leads that are the right fit for a digital product. So we've built a group of people who want done for you services and not who want a digital product. So what that means for us is the next phase is building a lead flow, right? We have inbound leads coming to us for done for you services. We now need to figure that out on the digital product side. And we obviously know how to do it. We teach people how to do it. So for us, it's about finding that time and that balance. When can we focus on lead generation for our digital products? And when can we focus on lead generation for our done for you services and creating that balance? But, you were talking about the constant client acquisition of an agency model. It's the same for digital products. You can launch it, get some people in your course, but you have to be doing things on a regular basis to be doing that. So we have plans. They're not live yet, but thinking of how we're going to do that and get people into our program and more people into our program by generating leads, creating partnerships, doing collaborations. Those activities are now going to be a daily part of what we do on a regular basis.
And you've talked a little bit about that on the podcast before, is kind of shifting the energy more to creating the personal brand, creating the inbound marketing strategies of like larger lead acquisition when it comes to like people opting into something and then nurtured and then sell. So I think that's an exciting development. I think 2025 is going to be a big year for you on that front. And I'm excited to see you move through that process. So now from a personal perspective, if we look at, what you've shared with us before is that you are the sole breadwinner and financial provider of your family. And sometimes it can come with pressure, sometimes it can come with challenges. Can you share a little bit about what that's like for you being a female business owner and working full-time in your agency while supporting your family?
I've been, our primary, sole breadwinner for quite some time now. It started when my husband went to grad school, and then I got pregnant right after he graduated grad school, and we decided that he would stay home for a little while, at least while my daughter was born, and now she's 7. So it's been, I think I'm at like 9 years of this. So it's funny you asked me that. I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that question because it's just like the way it's been. I think one of the really good things, I know this sounds funny, I think one of the reasons Millennial is successful is because I can't fail. I literally can't afford to fail. I don't have a trust fund. I don't have big savings. Like, I'm a completely self-made person. If I fail, I can't pay my bills. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. And that sounds silly, but I think it actually helps because I can't have a slow month. I have to make a certain amount of money, which means I have to be selling a certain amount to make that happen. And I think that can be a really good thing. So it's almost like a good thing to be in that position where that happens. The other thing is the reality is I work a lot of hours and I like working and I like what I do. And I'm good at it. I'm good at selling and I'm good at bringing in new clients. And having the support of someone, we're going on vacation and my husband did all of the laundry and got the dog to the border and dropped my daughter off at school and picked her up so I could finish up the things that we need to do to go on vacation. Having that support is huge. So while yeah, there's a lot of pressure there, it's like pressure that I think helps me stay motivated and on point, and I would never wanna go back to a traditional job. I don't think I could do it, so I just gotta keep going, right?
Yeah, I think having that little bit of a fire is super helpful. I think when I first got started, it was just kind of like, oh, I'll kind of do this thing. And yeah, I'm going to try this and then I'm going to try this. But there was really no like, this is my business. This is what it's going to be. And this is where we're going. And this is where we're headed. So we've talked about it on the podcast before, but having that vision, that mission, those values, and actually treating your business like a business and having the structure. And you do that so well when it comes to the systems, when it comes to management, in charge of the billing and finances and tracking those things and paying attention to them. And I think when you have that transparency and you have that like realistic picture, it allows you to take the action steps needed in order to see that success so that you get the money in the door so that you can fulfill on what it is that you need to fulfill. So I think you're such a great mentor and role model, and I just look up to you so much. So, for someone out there who is, female identified, they're a woman, they're in business, and maybe they are looking to be the sole provider, maybe they already are the breadwinner, that's part of like what they're going through or managing at this time. Do you have any advice for that person who feels like, okay, I have to make the money and I have to make sure that this works?
I think you have to be really comfortable with asking for what you're worth. And I think this is something, I'm currently trying to figure out is we have all of these systems and products and things that we do on a regular basis, but from time to time I do really deep strategy work for clients and I think I undercharge. I actually know that I undercharge for it like right now. And if you're responsible for that income and what you're offering is super valuable, like you have the right to ask for what you're worth. And I think this is something that like men tend to be better at than women just traditionally, right? It's if you're in a corporate environment, asking for the raise, asking for the promotion, building those things for yourself, negotiating a salary, if you're providing services for people, not being afraid to charge what you're worth. I was on a call today and I gave a quote for like this strategy session I do. And I quoted it. I was like, oh, it's $397 because that's what I charge for it. And at the end of the call, the girl said something like, oh, so it was like $4,000. And I had this moment where I was like, should I be charging $4,000 for that? Like she thought I said $4,000, right? And I don't think I should be. But the point is, I think I'm underselling myself currently. I'm successful and I have this agency and I do all of these things. I'm a top, Kajabi expert that people are like hoping to get time with me. And I still sometimes undersell myself. So if you're in a position and you're like, how can I charge that? How could I do that? Like you can and you should. And I'm going to take that lesson too today, and figure out how I can be making sure I'm getting paid what I'm worth. I don't know if I answered your question, but I think I kind of did.
I think absolutely, because I think a lot of it comes down to confidence and belief in ourselves and the doubts and insecurities that we deal with. If someone feels like they're struggling with being the sole provider or they want to make the money, they want to be the sole provider, what's kind of getting in the way? And a lot of times it's asking for the sale. It's like you have an idea of what you want to do, you have an idea of how you want to help people, or maybe you have products and programs in place already, but you're not making the sales that you want to make. I have been guilty of this. And I have shied away from the sale. I'll do everything else related to business, but not position myself. And at the retreat that I went to recently, we did an imposter exercise. Side note, really quickly, and then we'll get back to you, is we did this exercise of this imposter, and you got a name tag, and you gave your imposter a name. Mine was Shania Frauder. That's what it was. Shania Frauder was my name. And it came to light. You basically had like a phrase that you were supposed to say, fill in the blank. And it's like, my name is Shania Frauder. And I keep Michelle from whatever it is because I blank and I make her feel this. And so it was kind of like this put together statement. And you had to go around the room and introduce yourself as this imposter. And everything came down to my lack of belief that I have something of value. And so I avoid asking for the sale. And so I think it is such a good piece of advice to recognize the ways in which we're not giving ourselves enough credit to then be able to put ourselves out there and be confident in what we do, confident in our services, confident in our offer, and confident in our product program delivery business so that we can fulfill the responsibility of breadwinner, sole provider, and then, trickle down from there, let other things work itself out. So I think that was a great answer. Now, as you're moving through your agency, you're working a lot, you have bigger goals, you're working towards this. What do you think is one of your core motivators? Like, what is the why behind what you're doing and what you bring to the work that you do through the agency and with your business?
So my like deeper why is I really love helping people build businesses, which is like good that I do that all of the time. I enjoy talking through a product or program and strategizing and figuring out how they can build a sustainable business. I had a really fun strategy call today where, someone has a program, they built a lot of the systems and now they're trying to figure out a sales strategy, how they're going to find people. And I enjoy helping people figure out how to build their own businesses. And I think it's because at the end of the day, I like being my own boss. I would have very much struggled to wake up at the same exact time every day, do the same routine, follow someone else's instructions day in and day out, even when I knew how the way they wanted me to do it was stupid and inefficient and like not right. Like it hurts me. It like literally like I don't know how to describe it. I feel pain. Like it feels like physical pain when someone makes me do something that doesn't make sense to me. And I love being able to help someone else figure out how to live that life too. Like live a life where they are acting in their zone of genius and not having to answer to someone else. Right. And then I also just love the fact that like when people are putting courses into the world, they're doing things that makes other people's lives better, whatever they need that is. So I kind of can see how like I'm providing a landscape to give people the same life I have that I love, and they're going to be giving that same life to more people. Right. So there's this trickle effect. So I think that's one. I think there's two sides of it for me. That's one why. Like I actually love what I do. I actually want people to be able to wake up every day and live the life they want, and building businesses helps with that. I kind of on the other side, I grew up with a lot of financial instability. So me in my childhood, my parents really struggled and, for a lot of reasons. And I don't want that life for myself. I don't want that life for my daughter. And being an entrepreneur, I feel like I have the control. And yeah, some months are harder than others financially. I'm in control. I'm not going to get laid off tomorrow. I'm not going to not succeed because some boss doesn't like. I'm in control of my financial future, and that's really powerful.
It is powerful, and there's a lot of freedom built into those things, right? You're creating the life that you want for yourself. You're creating the financial stability that you didn't have. Like, you are making the choices. And in ripple effect fashion, improving not just your own life, but those people's lives that you touch and the businesses you work with, which I think is a beautiful thing. So, between the business building, the delivering on client services, the building your own personal brand, being a mother, living life as the person that you are, as a woman in this world, how do you prioritize yourself? How do you take care of yourself? And how do you kind of balance or manage it all?
I'd love to say I have this figured out, but I don't. And I think you're asking me this question in a particularly tough time. Scaling a business is hard, and right now we're in a position where we need to get to the next level to hire someone to take certain things off of my plate. And that's the reality is. But I recognize one, that it's not forever, and two, it's a right now thing, right? So I think that really helps. And I'm just also coming off of summer, right? So I'm a mother, I'm coming off of summer. We're about to get back into school routine where I'm going to be able to find those like pockets of peace for myself. But in summer, you're like 24/7. I'm like work mom, work mom, work mom, work mom, and it's hard. It is hard to find those things. But I think a couple of things with that. Even when I am busy all of the time, I actually love what I do. Like, I know that sounds really weird, but like an hour strategy call with a client, like figuring out their like core business values and process and how they're going to sell is really fun for me. It is energizing for me. So I actually picked work that like gives me joy. Now, not obviously certain things are draining and some days are hard and all of that, but like 80% of what I do, I actually love doing and is like helpful for my brain. Outside of that, though, I do try to make sure I, like, take pockets of time that aren't work focused. I go on a lot of walks, you know what I mean? Like, without my phone. I go on a lot of walks with my family. So we're out of the house and we're spending time together. I find time to enjoy a movie with my husband or go out to a meal. I try to say, like, I'm gonna push this aside and worry about that tomorrow. And that really helps to just like have some triggers to, like, turn off that, like, work going forward brain. Now that school is about to start, I have some plans of some things that I'm gonna do a little bit differently. One of the things that I wanna do is pick a morning a week when my daughter's in school. My husband and I are gonna play pickleball, like, 1 day a week to just well, at least while the weather's nice, to get that, like, time just with us and out of the house and doing something good for us, and the school will help with that routine.
There are seasons to our lives and different times that we fluctuate and grow through, times of scaling, times of plateaus, times of dips, whatever that is. And I think that the misconception that we all have is that everything needs to be kosher all the time. Otherwise, we're out of balance or we're not doing it right. But I was just on a podcast talking about this topic, and the idea and concept of balance comes up. And this podcast is all about prioritizing yourself in your business and in your life. And that's going to look different sometimes day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. And it doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And what someone else's experience, whether they're working 2 hours a day or 60 hours a week, it's going to look different. The point is to enjoy what you do, to feel fulfilled in how you're investing your time, how you're investing your energy, and where you're putting your attention. And that to me is balance and fulfillment and, finding that right prioritization for you and your life. So, thank you, Joanna, for sharing all of your advice today, for giving us a little behind the scenes into the agency that you very successfully run. Do you have any final thoughts as we start to wrap up this conversation today?
I do, because when you mentioned this interview and talked about the success, right, that we faced. And one of the things that I thought about was the fact that, yes, there's lots of success. We have built a business, it's sustainable, there's so many good things. But we've also experienced a lot of what some people may call failures. The world just doesn't see those things, right? And when you're a business owner and when you're trying to grow, things are going to go wrong. And if you don't try something that doesn't work, you're probably not pushing yourself enough. And the key for us, I think one of the keys for our success is we try things, and when they don't work, we kind of figure out what happened, what went wrong, not finger pointing, no blame game, but just analyze the situation and pick up and move on. Right. And we've had ideas that didn't work and had the partnerships that fell through and done things. And we could have stopped and been oh, well, that didn't work. So we're not going to grow and had that sort of attitude. But what has kept us going is saying, okay, that didn't work. What's the next $1 million idea? What's the next one? That didn't work. What's the next one? And I think I'm learning how to, this sounds really weird, but give up something quicker if it's clear it's not working. If we're trying it and it's not working, getting to the point where we can say, you know what, let's try something different. Let's try something different.
The more that I'm in business ownership and entrepreneurship, and the more that I learn from others and their experiences, I really see resilience and staying power as some of the most important qualities. It's not even your skill set. It's not your intelligence. It's not your charisma or personality. It's not about whatever it is that you offer. It seriously is about your ability to get back up and do it over and over and over again, even when it's difficult, even when you have failed. And thank you for sharing that, because there's so many pretty pictures that we paint on online business and social media and content creation and the course creator space, especially. And you can kind of fall prey to seeing the big numbers or hearing the successes and thinking that everything is just going to be peachy keen all the time. But it's not. It's an evolution, it's a growth process. It's doing things wrong and trying again and trying to not let it be something that you take personally or not affect your mental health along the way. So, Joanna of Millennial Marketer, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you next time on the Her First podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Find the link in the show notes to join us in the Her First Collective, a free Facebook group to discuss the podcast, ask questions of our guest experts, and network with a group of female entrepreneurs who value collaboration over competition.
Please subscribe, share, leave a review, and be sure to catch our next episode. What is one thing you can do today to prioritize you in business and life?